Hello there, and welcome back to Miss Techie's Corner. We can all agree that collaboration is a very important skill that students need to learn in order to thrive in the 21st century. Now, we know, especially based on certain demographic locations, collaboration does not always come easily to every student. So as teachers, it's our job to encourage students to collaborate by providing myriad of opportunities for them to do so. And no better way to do that than to be using Google Apps. Now, 3 apps that I'm going to be focusing on today are Google Slides, Jamboard, and the PeerDeck add-on for Google Slides. I'll be showing you how we can use these to foster collaboration in our classroom. So without any further ado, let's get into the tutorial. In Google Classroom, I've created an assignment using Google Docs and Google Slides. So let's get started with this Google Slide example. The students are working collaboratively. Now all students are working in the same document, and you'll notice that I have a slide assigned to each student so as to avoid students working on top of each other. And in this case, you'll notice also that I have some red arrows. The red arrows indicate whether or not a student needs support. So once that student drags that arrow onto their slide, I'm able to see and I know who needs my help. In the teacher view, I'm going to change it to the grid view so that I can have a better view of all of my students at once. I can hover to see who's working on which slide. And again, if I see that red arrow out, I know that the student needs my help. I can zoom in or zoom out depending on the size of my class. Next, it's Jamboard. Jamboard comes with any Google Suite app account. So I'm creating my new Jam. And these are the tools. You have a pen feature, highlighter, brush, and marker, and the various colors. Now, I would recommend if you're using this for writing, it's better to use it on a touch screen, or for students who have a better control of the trackpad. There's an eraser feature, or you can just click clear the frame to delete all of the information. You can also add sticky notes. There are different colors that you can use. You can choose this option to maybe assign a different color to a different student, or for a different color for various tasks. Each slide can be duplicated, ordered, or you can also manipulate the size and the positions. Next, you also are able to insert images from either a Google search, your Google Drive, or from your desktop. And in this case, for this example, the students can think about a picture and share one thing that they've learned, or if it's a video, whatever the activity is. You can also insert shapes into a jam. I'm choosing to insert a circle, and I'm making a Venn diagram so that students can do a compare-contrast activity. I duplicated the slide. I'll select the circle. I select one, and I change the color to transparent so that you can see the intersecting lines. And I'm also enlarging the circles. To type, I'm using the text box, and I would recommend that you use this feature for older students who have a better control, because you'll notice that sometimes moving the text boxes around could become a little challenging in that you move the shapes instead of the text boxes. Next, we have the frame bar. If I click to expand the frame bar, I can choose to duplicate each frame and assign a frame to a different student. I can also create, just add a blank frame You can use this. This is really great for collaboration if your students are working in triads, in pairs, or in small groups. Just know that students are able to delete other students' information. You can change the background to there are these various colors and styles. Apart from the solid colors, you have the grids. You also have lines and a blank background. It would be very important to teach students digital citizenship so that they know how to work collaboratively without disrespecting other students. And finally, you have the laser tool that you can use, especially if you're presenting or if your students are presenting. They can use that just for emphasis or to gain your attention. And you can share the link of that jam in Google Classroom. In this case, I'm editing the same assignment that I created earlier, and I'm just going to tweak the instructions, and then I am going to paste that the link to that jam. The students will not need to make any adjustments to their I don't need to make any further adjustments because it updates automatically for all students. Please make sure to save. If you're editing any assignments, make sure to save. So let me show you real quickly from the student's end that the student will not need to make any change. The change updates automatically. There it is. Next, we'll look at one of my favorite tools, and that's the PeerDeck add-on for Google Slide. Now, if you're doing this for the very first time, you would need to go to add-ons, go to get add-ons so that you can apply or you can install this add-on to your Google Slide. Once you do so, you're going to have to come back, click on that add-on, the PeerDeck add-on, and you will have to grant it some permissions first. I'll also recommend that you go to peerdeck.com to set up your teacher account, and the first 90 days you get all the premium features. So that's really awesome. And then you can choose to upgrade after your 90 days are over. So let's get into a few examples of how PeerDeck works. Now, PeerDeck allows for lots of interactivity and collaboration. So you have templates that you can choose from. You have lesson builders for before, beginning, during, and at the end of lessons. You also have learning development and some subject areas template. I'm choosing an ELA template of a compare contrast example where students will have to type their responses. So I'll just click on the template and it adds a new slide to my presentation. Note that all of these templates are editable so that you can make it into exactly what you want it to be or to suit your needs. If I want to use presentations or slides from a previous presentation, I can also do so. Once you add one of these templates, do not delete that bar at the bottom of the slide because that's what makes it interactive. So if you go to File and Insert Slides, you're able to reuse a previous presentation that you've created. In this case, I'm just going to use this for demonstration purposes. You have the option to select all of the slides, keep the original formatting, or none of the slides. In this case, I would just select 3 slides from this presentation. And you see it adds it to my deck. Please note that, as you can see, these slides that I'm reusing have audio. But before I mention that, let me just show you that I'm just creating my own activity. First, I use the template for that second slide there, but in this case, I just want students to type their response, so I chose a text action or a text option. If I don't add any PeerDeck activity, please note that the students will not be able to interact, or it will not be interactive, even if you had interactive elements. So in this case, you'll notice that I have some audio. This is an audio file, but the students will not be able to listen to that audio once I bring it in this PeerDeck presentation. To get started, I click on Start Lesson, and I have an option to choose student pace. This is especially important, useful if you're using it for asynchronous sessions, or instructor pace if you're using it for synchronous lessons via face-to-face or via some kind of video conferencing. It opens up and you have the website that the students can go to and the link and the code for them to enter. Or there's a link that you have at the bottom. There's a give students a link, and you can copy that link and paste it. Once at least one student has joined, you can click Start Class. But before we do so, let's open the teacher dashboard so that I can show you some functionalities in here. In the teacher dashboard, you can also screenshot this page and paste it in your Google Meet or your Zoom sessions for students who are coming in late. And here I have a view of all of the slides that I have coming in, but the larger view at the back, that's what the students will see, either on the projector or on their screens if we're using it in a Google Meet or a Zoom session. Once I click on a slide, the students will see that slide. They're not able to move on until I move on. That's because it's in instructor pace. And as the students type their responses, I can see them immediately so that I can vet to make sure that, there's nothing inappropriate. And once I'm sure that it's appropriate, I can click on display or to show the responses so that the entire class can see. Note that the students' names do not show up here. I can also lock the screen so that students cannot do anything, especially if I just want them to focus on something else. And if for some reason I'm not able to continue, I can turn on student pace, and so students can complete this activity on their own. Again, you'll notice that students, if the slides do not have that PeerDeck bar at the bottom, the students cannot interact. So for this final slide, I'm showing a demonstration where a student is asking help. So once the students type a response, I have an option to start that response. But in this case, I don't want to do so because the student is asking a question. If I star, it means that I can display for all to see. But in this case, I'll just give the student my feedback, and we can have a discourse here. And once the student responds, then I can add another feedback, and so forth. We can be a back and forth. So let me show you really quickly on the student's end what that looks like. The student sees that she has a new feedback, and the student clicks on that feedback. And then once they read it, then you can say mark as read. And of course, you can see there's a timestamp so you know when the feedback was received. Now that you're finished, it's important to know that if students were not, it's time to end your session. But once you end your session, if students were absent, they're not able to receive the takeaways. Now the takeaway will be sent to the students who were a part of the PeerDeck presentation, and it's going to create it's going to send an email, and it's going to create an individual presentation to each student with their names attached. You can also choose to share the link to Google Classroom depending on what the activity was. If there's no identifying information on those, you can choose to either create, first you will have to select your class, and you can choose to create an assignment, a question, a material. All of the options in the Google Classroom is what's available here. And once you're finished, you click return to home, and that's it. You can exit. I'm showing you in my Google Drive, I have a PeerDeck folder, and in that folder I can see all the takeaways. Now for this demonstration, I only had one student, but if I had multiple students, all of their files will show up here. So if I click on it, you'll notice that it has the student's name at the top, so I know that which student's slide presentation I'm viewing. And the students would receive an email. So that's it for using Jamboard and PeerDeck. Thank you for watching.